Shayanna, Dr. Phil.
Pleasure.
Good to meet you.
Likewise.
Good to meet you. Well, we have a lot to talk about today. First off, let me tell you how sorry I am for your loss. I know this has got to be a very difficult time and an awful lot to process, I suppose.
Right.
But, people are very curious about this whole situation and scenario, and I kind of like to turn the clock back a little bit and start talking about your relationship from the beginning. How long had you known Aaron?
Since grammar school, so
Grammar
practically my entire life, more or less.
How did you guys get together as a couple, and when did that start?
Well, he would say it was middle school. I'd say it's more towards high school when we actually started to pursue each other. It was high school love, high school sweethearts.
And what point did you get engaged?
We were engaged October of 2012, before our daughter was born.
You were with Aaron for a long time, as you say, from grade school. And then, he was, I think, a fourth-round draft pick, right?
Right.
But then, obviously, just really had great success in the NFL and got, I think it was a 5-year contract for $40 million with the Patriots.
Right.
What was that like for the two of you when he was able to achieve that? Because that's quite a contract.
Of course. His achievement was, I always was supportive, but I always tell everyone it wasn't necessarily my money. It was his. Huge accomplishment, of course. But I don't think anything changed for us. So we were still mellow and low-key, private. We just had more money in the bank, in a sense.
There's been so much said that there was a parallel lifestyle, that on the one hand, his teammates talk about him as being such a team player and so supportive, and speak of him as being a very dedicated athlete that was such a part of such a iconic franchise, that the bar to be part of that team was very high.
Right.
And he was not only part of that franchise, but he was a star in that franchise. But then yet he had relationships with those that were less than desirable. What do you say about that?
I'd say, everyone has their own choice in friends. He didn't have the best choice in some friends, but that doesn't, that didn't make him a bad person. As far as, the relationships he had with outsiders, I don't necessarily know too much about that. I invited everyone into the home that he brought there. I was never rude.
Was he a gang member?
Not from my knowledge.
Would you have known?
Probably not, to be honest with you. That's not the Aaron that I know.
But you said anybody that he would bring around, you would invite into the home.
Right.
Did some of those people make you a little nervous?
Honestly, I never hung around with them. So it's more or less like you cook and you make food for everyone. You make sure they're comfortable. And then I kind of go and do my own thing. So I wouldn't say I felt uncomfortable in my home. I separated myself.
When you were in that situation, was your relationship such that you had the right to say what you thought? Could you step up and say, hey, I don't think you ought to be hanging with those people, and I don't think you ought to be bringing them into our home?
I pick and choose my battles, and there's some things that I pressed on and some things that I didn't.
When he went through trial and he was found guilty and he got his sentence.
Guilty of murder in the first degree.
Was that a shock to him? Did he think he was going to be found not guilty and go home?
I think it was a shock to all of us. We were definitely leaning more towards an innocent verdict.
So the day he went in to get the verdict, he expected to walk out of there that day and go home with you?
I feel like he prepared for it, in a sense. It just didn't happen the way that he wanted it to.
Do you think he was involved in that crime in some way?
I truly don't. I've said it over and over. He may have been at the wrong place, wrong time, but I don't think that he, what is said to be out there is actually accurate.
If he had committed this crime, would it change how you felt about him?
It's a hard question. I think if, When I asked him if he had some involvement and he said yes, I think I would think differently as far as what I should be doing for my child and myself. I had asked him if he was involved and he said no. That's all I needed.
And you believed him when he said it?
Absolutely. There was no reason for me not to.
Guilty of murder in the first degree.
When you heard the verdict, what was your reaction?
Oh, I was devastated, completely devastated. My whole world changed. He's all I know. I was completely devastated.
And did you two look at each other in that moment?
I don't think actually that I could look at him. I think I more or less buried my face in his mother's shoulder, and we cried together.
When was the first time you talked to him, saw him, made eye contact with him after the verdict?
It definitely wasn't in that courtroom. I know I left very frantically. I couldn't stay for the sentencing. I couldn't hear those words. But I would have to say the next encounter would have to have been a visit.
Well, how did your life change when he went to prison?
Oh, it did was a whole upside down twist. Everything changed. He wasn't there anymore, financially, emotionally. It was hard.
How difficult a transition was this for him to go from, being out in the world and beautiful home, affluent lifestyle, to all of a sudden being locked up in a cage, locked up in a cell?
Right. I'd say it was difficult, of course.
Did his celebrity status work for him or against him in prison?
I would say both ways, but I think it worked for him in a sense where people could, he had something to talk about, something to give individuals that may not have experienced that lifestyle.
When you visited him, what did you guys talk about?
We never really spoke about any of, I guess, the drama filling our life. It was more or less like the happy times, what we used to do, AVL mostly. So, it was just, we tried to keep it positive.
Was he a jealous type? He's in jail and you're a beautiful woman out in the world. Was he ever worried about you or what you might be doing?
Well, jealous, yeah, I guess that's fair. But my loyalty, I assured him there was nothing to worry about.
You're still wearing your engagement ring.
I am.
It's a beautiful, beautiful ring.
Thank you.
You're wearing it now is certainly a sign of your loyalty to him.
Of course, always.
Even now. Will
Right.
you always wear that ring?
I'll always have it with me, and I plan on passing it down to AVL when it's time to.
You changed your name to Hernandez, but yet you never actually got married. Why not?
We didn't get married, obviously, for a number of reasons, but I changed my name for the simple fact that, we were a family, and I'm very strict on that. And my daughter, as learning her name, she learned mine and she learned Daddy's, and my last name was different. So now she knows me as, Shayanna Hernandez instead of Shayanna Jenkins.
Yeah. She's how old now?
She's 4.
What's her relationship with Aaron through the time? Did you take her to see him?
I did.
And how did that go?
We would try to go once a week, sometimes twice, depending on the circumstances and whatnot. I wouldn't say it was normal. It was her normal, so she knew no different. As far as their interaction, it was unbelievable. So she was very much a daddy's girl.
Well, you probably know him better than anybody else. Do you think this was a suicide or something else?
I don't think this was a suicide. Knowing him, I don't know. I don't know.
What would cause you to doubt that he took his own life? For one thing, we know that he had just been acquitted
Right.
of 2 murders and had 1 on appeal. So, this had to be the high point of high points in a long, long time, right?
No, I agree. And that would make me doubt that he took his own life. He was very positive, so excited to come home. I spoke to him the night before they say this incident happened, and he was so, Daddy's gonna be home, and he's speaking to AVL. I can't wait to sleep in the bed with you guys, and I can't wait to just hold you and love you. There was no indication at all of such events.
Okay, so you spoke to him the very night before he was found dead in his cell.
As far as I know, I was the last person to speak with him.
And the last words he said to you were what?
I remember him saying, babe, I've got to go. They're shutting the doors. And I honestly don't think that we said I love you to each other. And that was it.
Okay, babe, I got to go. They're closing the doors. There was no, like, monumental goodbye, no finality in what he was saying, no, this woman that I've been with since grade school, that I've loved since middle school, that I've got a child with, that I know I'm speaking with for the last time in my life.
Right.
It was, babe, gotta run, they're closing the doors.
Yes, it was a normal conversation, which makes me doubt so many things. I just know that the feedback that I was getting from our last talk had nothing to do with any suicidal thoughts. But then again, I don't know what that would be. But to me, it was completely normal.
So you look at the absence of what was there rather than the presence of what was there. There was just nothing there that signaled.
Right, exactly.
If he didn't take his own life, then by deduction, that would mean someone else did.
In a sense.
Because you don't accidentally wrap something around your neck and get it caught on your bunk and hang yourself. This isn't a whoops.
Right.
I fell and hit my head. Something went on here.
Right.
Do you have any reason to believe or any information from him that would cause you to think someone might want him dead?
I have no reasoning why anyone would want him dead at all.
There was a note left, purportedly written by Aaron, to you, correct?
That's correct.
Did that note strike you odd in any way?
No, I thought it was a note of love. I did see that it was addressed to Shay instead of, babe or bae, the way he would refer me as. That was a little odd to me. But as far as the content, seemed to be his loving self.
It was addressed to Shay. You would have thought it would have been a term of endearment, more close, more intimate than that.
Right, absolutely.
Which would have been what?
Babe or bae, or at least signed your soulmate, as he would usually do, was just, I didn't get it.
Because you would think this would be an emotional time for him.
Right.
If he's getting ready to leave this world and talk to you for the last time.
Right.
And he missed the chance on the phone.
Right, absolutely.
So you think he would do it here. How about the handwriting? Did it look like him?
The handwriting was similar, but I feel like, again, you have nothing but time in there. So I feel like it's easily duplicated, or could be.
Were there words in the note that he didn't use that you would expect to be in there besides babe or bae?
I think it was it screamed love, but it wasn't, like I said, personal. It wasn't intimate. It was, I don't know, there were some odd parts where it didn't make sense. It wasn't clicking in my head as far as what he may have been thinking or what he was trying to say. It was very short. I feel like, I don't know, I wanted more. I wanted him to explain, and I don't know.
If it was not suicide, there had to be a pretty elaborate conspiracy for this to have been staged.
I wasn't there. I don't know what the situation may have been. But that being said, I think anything is possible.
You said it well, you weren't there, and neither was I, so
Right.
We don't know. Now, after his death, it was reported that he was gay, and you were his fiancée. Was he secretly gay? Do you have a story or a question for me? Click the link in the description and tell me what in the world is going on.